Hearts and Celtic have been the two best teams this season in Scotland, but who should be considered favourites to go on and win the Scottish Premiership? Welcome back, guys, to Fog Football. And Hearts on Wednesday night, they dropped 2 points. Celtic got a little bit closer. The gap went down from 8 to 6. We then put up the poll to see who you guys are considering favourites for the title. And after 1.4k votes, Celtic win with a pretty large percent, 71%, Hearts with 29% of the vote. Now, there's 62 comments, and we will get into those comments in a minute, but I think I agree. I agree with the poll. I think that Celtic should be favourites for the title. That doesn't necessarily mean that I believe they will win it or they'll go on to win it, but I think, considering that it's only a 6-point gap, and we've got, 28 games left to play, that there's a lot of football to be played here. 6 points, when you think about it, really isn't that much. We're literally talking 2 defeats for Hearts, 2 wins for Celtic, and it's back level on points. So it's not a huge gap. Obviously, you would rather be 6 points in front. And if Celtic were 6 in front, the gap, it would feel a lot bigger, because we're used to Celtic running away with things. We're used to Celtic dominating. So, even though 6 points is 6 points, a 6-point gap for Celtic would feel bigger than a 6-point gap for Hearts. But right now, Hearts are 6 clear. 29% believe that makes them favourites. The bookmakers don't believe that. The bookmakers, I believe, have Celtic 2-7 to win the title, and Hearts 5-2. In fact, we'll quickly check that right now. But I did see a few comments saying none of them. Rangers should be favourites. And in a previous video, I said I do believe that Rangers can still win the league. But I think that's the key word there. Rangers can win the league. But I don't think anybody should realistically be putting Rangers favourite. I don't think anyone can say that right now Rangers are the most likely team to win the league. I'm not buying it. I personally think that's bullshit. I'm okay with someone thinking Rangers can still win it. I'm okay with someone thinking Rangers will win it. But I think we should all be able to agree that right now, Rangers just aren't favourites to do so. But the odds have actually changed a lot. So I'm pretty sure Celtic were 2-7, but since Brendan Rodgers is gone, Celtic's odds have actually got better. Even though they've reduced the gap from 8 to 6, the points difference has actually changed. The odds difference has changed. So Celtic are now 1-2 with Bet365 to win the league. Hearts are 9-4 and Rangers are 7-1. That's the order that I would put it in. So I agree with the bookmakers. In fact, I think those odds are pretty accurate. I think that's about right. Celtic 1-2, Hearts 9-4, Rangers 7-1. I think that's pretty bang on. Maybe Rangers 7-1. Maybe those odds are a wee bit too high. Maybe I'd have them 6-1, something like that. 11-2. But I do think that's the correct order. I do think Celtic should be odds on, with Hearts being second favourites, because Rangers, I know they're only 5 behind, but no one can honestly sit here and say that Rangers have been anywhere near as good as Hearts, and there's an 11-point gap as well. So I think the order is Celtic, Hearts, Rangers. I actually agree with Bet365 here. Anyway, let's get into the comments. M1 says the famous. James McGregor says none. Fuck them, I say Rangers. You can't seriously think that Rangers are favourites. Do people even understand what favourites means? It means the most likely. You can't think that right now Rangers are the most likely team to win the league. You can think they have a chance, or you could even think they're going to come back and do it, but you've got to be able to accept that right now, based on the league position and the way they're playing and the way they've started, that they can't be considered favourites. Paul Hugh McGuigan says still Celtic, but Hearts can put up a great fight when injuries start creeping in. That's going to be the test. Hugh Trodden says, here's my answer. It's just a bunch of 4-leaf clovers, so I guess. Cara says Rangers. DM Celtic Rangers will be top 2 come May 2026. I disagree with that. Patrick says, I knew Hibs would lie down to Sevco. They always do. I mean, they hardly laid down to them. It was a 1-0 defeat, and they could have got a draw had they scored that penalty. So I wouldn't say Hibs laid down to Rangers. Why would they? Why would Hibs lie down to fucking Rangers? On what planet? Does that make any sense? Frankie Cool says it's still way too early to call favourites. It's still too early to call, but Celtic are favourites. Remember Dons last year? Title was theirs also. No, the title was never Aberdeen's. Aberdeen were doing alright, and they were hanging on, and they were level with Celtic. But Celtic were winning games convincingly. Celtic were beating teams easy, and winning like by 3 and 4. And a lot of the games that Aberdeen were winning, they were winning by the 1 goal. And a lot of the games they were actually scoring pretty late on. I remember them scoring in like the final 10, 15 minutes of games to seal a 1 goal victory. It was never their title to lose last year. I mean, maybe after 10 games, people thought Aberdeen had a chance, and they did. They had a chance, but they were never favourites. They were never. David Connor says, you do ask stupid questions. Well, I mean, it can't be that stupid. Hearts are 6 in front, and the bookmakers have got Celtic as low as 1-2. So the bookmakers obviously think it's up for debate. They've got it close. Stuart Jambo, it's still get to be Celtic as favourites, but we finished the week a point further ahead, and I'm pretty content with how this week has played out. Now a chance to go 9 points clear. Did you really finish a point further ahead? Celtic won, so I don't agree with that. David says the bottles started to shake, got a lucky point. Heard Dell blaming refs already. Yeah, let's see. We battled back and got a lucky point, but our bottle was also shaking. How does that make sense? Classic Ultra Celtic fan behaviour with the... I heard McInnes was blaming referees. You know you can check if stuff like that is true, but who am I to try and educate an intellectual who spends their time rage baiting in the internet comment sections for fulfilment while you wait to watch your team on TV again? Yeah, no, I didn't. I never heard McInnes blaming any refs. So he says there at the start it was never a free kick. I mean, maybe he does say it, but I haven't heard him blame anybody. So we'll see. What else have we got here? Gorgut for Congress says, I mean, Hearts are 6 clear, and Celtic's little show last night was basically a very brief manager bounce, so I'd still say Hearts are favourites. Listen, Celtic were okay against Falkirk, they played pretty well, but I think 4-0 flattered them. Scott Bain had a bad game, especially the third goal. The third goal was horrendous for Scott Bain. I mean, he literally parries it straight to Nygren on the edge of the 6-yard box. Shocking. Roddy Scott says, other. I'm assuming he thinks Rangers, but it's just not Rangers. It can't be Rangers. It is laughable to suggest that Rangers are favourites for this title. There's just nothing. There's no evidence that you could possibly put forward to make a case for Rangers being favourites. You can say that they've got a chance, but they're not favourites. Robert Moyer says refs always help the old firm. I think that is true to an extent, but I will admit that Hearts got a bit lucky in the last game they played against Rangers. Some decisions went our way, but more often than not, the big teams do get the decisions. I think that is factual across football. No matter what the league, bigger teams tend to get decisions. Scott Kirkland says Rangers just under the radar, like an American B-52 bomber. Sean Kelly says B-52 is one of the least stealth planes ever. I think you mean the B-2. The B-2-1, or the B-2I, whatever that is. Stuart Jambo, if being 16 points behind is flying under the radar and a positive thing, then I wish them a safe flight for the rest of the season. I believe Rangers are now only 11 points behind, so... Were they ever 16 behind? I don't think so. Hoopspur says, did the B-52 go to service in 2012? Scott Kirkland says 16 points in what league? Football Manager. James Doran says the Rangers have no chance of winning the league. I wouldn't say they have no chance, but I think it's a slim chance. Janet, you just can't pick between Hearts and the shite. There are a few teams that can pull this league, but could be at least a fight by 4 teams. 4 teams? What 4 teams? There's only 3 teams that can realistically win this league. I think Hibs are a solid team. I think they're a good team, but they haven't shown this season that they've got enough in them, results-wise. For me, it's a three-way fight with Hearts, Celtic and Rangers, and I've got Celtic favourites with Hearts second favourites and Rangers with the outside chance, I think, right now. Hoopspur says Huns will no doubt make themselves favourites. Well, some of them are, and they just shouldn't be. Grober Bozer Wolf says, why is this even going to a vote? See if the league positions are still like this in February, then you start believing Hearts have a chance. But Celtic can spend big in January. and have a squad of serial winners. Hearts will start dropping points from draws. They do look impressive, but they're no there yet. Well, that doesn't really mean anything because, I mean, first of all, Hearts are going to bring in players in January. Shevnikov has already agreed he will be here in January. You say that Celtic can spend big in January. Celtic have spent big before and not necessarily improved the squad. 9 million on Ida, 6 million on Trusty, 11 million in Engels, 5 million on Balakisha, and the guy's rotten. So Celtic can, in January, they could spend 20 million. They could bring in 4-5 million pound players, and there's no guarantee any of them will be an improvement on the squad. So just because Celtic have more money, that doesn't mean that they're guaranteed to go out and spend it. First of all, we don't know if they're going to spend it, and second of all, even if they do, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to bring in better players and improve their team. So it is what it is. Anyway, I've got 8 replies to this. Let's see what we've got. David says Celtic will be top by Christmas. RFC says no, they won't, and spend either way. You look at the recent players you have brought are shite. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, how can you just say it's as simple as Celtic? Oh, Celtic will spend money, so they're gonna win. The Celtic spend money. They've spent money the last few seasons, the last few windows, and it's not helped them. They've got worse. David says, we'll be top, no bother. And you are right, last few players have been crap under Rodgers. Let's see how they play under Martin or the next boss. But yeah, no, honestly, if Celtic, if they bring in similar players to the ones that they've brought in recently, then there's no guarantee that they're going to get better. So we'll see. Here's a load of shite about profits and finances that I'm not too interested in reading, so I think we're just going to end it there. I agree Celtic are favourites, but I think it's close. It could change game to game. I think that if Hearts can go 2 points in front of Celtic, or go 3 in front of Celtic, then they could potentially go favourites. Who knows? Or I'm sure if Hearts drop points in the next game and Celtic win, then Celtic will probably go from like 1-2 to 1-3 or 1-4. So it'll differ from game to game. But right now, I do believe that Celtic are probably favourites for the title. So I think the bookmakers have got it right. Anyway, guys, that's it. Till next time. Peace.